The auto market is getting spicier by the day. When we got these sales tallies from the month of July here in the United States for the automakers, obviously Acura stood out minus 10% for the month of July. Honda, though, with one of the mildest gains compared to everyone else who posted. Toyota was up 22% essentially. Honda just up 1%. What the heck is happening, right? Heck, Subaru and Mazda even saw better growth than Honda and Hyundai, absolutely. Things are about to get a lot worse for Honda as they just announced their financial results for Q2. This is right off of the really ugly results that Nissan posted yesterday, minus $319 million, essentially thanks to the tariffs. Nissan, $547 million quarterly loss. Of course, the tariffs play into that, but they have more issues than just that. And it's not just the Japanese automakers that are seeing these financial crunches right now. It's essentially everyone. I mean, it's even worse if you're a fully electric maker like Rivian or Lucid, for example. But we're going to focus on Honda today. They just announced their Q1 profits plunging by 50% on the backs of tariffs and the backs of poor EV decisions. You might be saying, Kirk, EV is the future, and there's no doubt it has a part of the future, but Honda was going too hard, too fast, spending a ton of money, and it's hurt their pocketbook in ways they did not expect. If you guys are a fan of Honda or just a fan of cars in general, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. I'll have new information. We know the Prelude's coming out sometime this year. We know that the Acura RSX is coming out sometime this year, and I will give you guys hands-on impressions when I'm able to. I'll just end it there. And Honda's rose-colored glasses for EVs, they're coming off. In the latest quarter alone, Honda booked a $780 million one-time charge for EV-related misfires. That's almost as high as the cost that tariffs had on the company. So you have this double whammy of EV incentives and EV investments, as well as the tariffs. That cut Honda's operating profit compared to last quarter two of 2024 to 50%. So they're down from $3.35 billion of profit to just $1.69 billion of profit this past quarter. Honda's managing executive officer, Fujimura-san, blamed the EV costs on Honda's conservative outlook for EVs. The company has also delayed product development and investment and the EV production hub in Canada. And they are still going to bring out the 0 Series EVs, but those are made in Marysville, Ohio. And that's also had other impacts on the brand as well, such as a lack of Accord volume. The TLX is now dead, and that had a role to play with, I guess you could say, the EV transformation hub in Ohio had a role to play with the TLX's demise. A small one, but it was still there. And then the Integra sales are down as well, and production is down, maybe due to some lack of production in the Marysville auto plants to get ready to build EVs there later this year. So Fujimura-san says, we are not very optimistic, to put it plainly. The weakening of EV demand was accelerated by the lack of EV tax credit, which is available still until September 30th. But with those two things out the window, plus all the drama you have with tariffs north of the border, south of the border, everywhere outside of the U.S. border, they're like, we can't further invest into Canada right now because of everything being so uncertain. And what is certain, though, right now is EV demand is waning. It has kind of plateaued. And if you think things are bad here in the United States for Honda, they're really not that bad. They have just invested too much into EVs. And in fact, they invested not only into EVs at a high clip in the United States and Japan, but also big investments into China. They didn't do the right thing in China. Their new EVs were too expensive for the Chinese market. And there's a Chinese price war going on for EVs. I just saw some coming out for $10,000. Meanwhile, Hondas, if you convert them, they're $30,000 to $40,000. They're EVs that compete directly with Honda, except have better tech and better performance, better range, and cost half the price. So how are they going to compete there with such a poor product in a market that well, is very cutthroat. And Honda has admitted they're struggling with EVs in China and they're underachieving versus their initial plan. Honda is slashing research and development in electrification and software by 30% to the end of this decade. And a part of those changes was, of course, suspending the EV hub in Canada. Now, last year, Honda said that they were going to sell 2 million EVs by 2030. Well, now that's down to as low as 700,000 EVs by 2030. So less than half. They're at about a third. They're going to sell about a third of the EVs just 1 year later. If the EV market continues to dismantle and, I guess, fragment, it could go down further from 700,000 from the original 2 million. Honda still is committed to launching the 0 Series SUV in the first half of next year. They're also committed in the second half of next year to launch the Saloon. I mean, those plans could change, but they apparently are on track. The Acura RSX will launch sometime this year, maybe by the end of this year, availability maybe early next year. It's hard to say, but they are coming. At least 3 EVs are coming for Honda. And remember, they did kill off their 3-row EV recently due to the lack of demand. I'm actually driving a 3-row EV this week. Stay tuned for my driving impressions and my review. It is the Volvo EX90. And after 1 day of trying to film my quick review, which should be very quick, it was extraordinarily frustrating experience. I know Honda can build better EVs than that Volvo EX90 and cost less, but that's just like, no one's going to be buying $60, $70, $80,000 3-row EVs at a high clip. It's just not profitable and the consumers can't afford it. Okay, so just hybridize a Pilot and you'll be printing money. Well, there's not even a hybrid Pilot around anytime soon. We might have to wait till 2027, 2028. Meanwhile, Hyundai's coming out with a hybrid Palisade this year. Toyota has their hybrid Grand Highlander, which is hard as heck to find. So there's competition out there, but the demand for hybridization is through the roof, which means profitability through hybridization is through the roof if executed even halfway decently. All right, but Honda sells 2 EVs in the United States, the Prologue and the ZDX. But those are not Honda's EVs. They're contracting General Motors to build them from them, the Prologue in Mexico, ZDX in Spring Hill, Tennessee. Honda sold 16,000 Prologues through June. Acura sold 10,000 ZDX. You might be saying, Kirk, that's great. They're really doing well with EVs because their sales volume is high. No, it's not good. Because in order for them to sell those EVs, Honda is spending $12,000 per transaction on a Prologue to sell it. It's even worse for the ZDX. The ZDX, Acura/Honda is spending $21,000 in incentives to sell the ZDX. That was through the April through June time period. That's a recipe for bankrupting yourself if you go full on an EV. So Honda being, they're waking up to reality. This utopia of EVs where the supply chain is globally sourced for them. In 1 year, we go from essentially a global economy to almost a closed border economy where everything needs to be locally sourced now. It's quite crazy. No one could have a lot of people saw this coming, but it's still alarming to see that we're having this sort of drastic swing in the market in such a short amount of time, and it makes my job fascinating. Now, Honda's forecast, because the tariffs are going from 25% and with the new agreement down to 15% for imports into the United States, that includes parts, I believe. Because of that, Honda is going to dodge $1.38 billion in tariff costs for the second half of this year. Now, you might be saying, Kirk, Honda doesn't bring any vehicles into the United States. The Type R could go up in price for sure, but everything will go up in price, especially hybrids. Honda brings in essentially almost all of their hybrid technology, their motors, their inverters, their batteries from Japan and assembles them in the United States. So their hybrid setup is going to get more expensive unless they can build a supply chain here in the United States for hybrids. That takes a long time to do. That might take 4 to 5 years minimum to source hybrid components to make the Civic, the CR-V hybrid, and then all their large platform hybrids coming with the Pilot, the Passport, the Odyssey, etc. So Honda is in a tough spot because they just have no local production of hybrid components. And, over 30% of their Civics are hybrid. Over 50% of the Accord and CRVs are hybrid. And once they have large platform hybrids, I would assume that Honda with the large platform hybrids will locally source them when those come online in the next couple of years because, well, one, tariffs, but also two, large platform vehicles for Honda really only exist in the United States. All their vehicles abroad are based off Honda's global platform, which the biggest vehicle that I'm aware of on that platform might be something like the CRV. All right, anything larger than that is built in the United States with the MDX large platform that is in Ohio, I believe the MDX is built. And then you also have the rest of the large platform Hondas from the Ridgeline to the Pilot built in Lincoln, Alabama. And Honda, in order to produce more vehicles in the United States for the United States market, is expanding its two-shift operation in U.S. plants to 3. So they will be running around the clock producing vehicles. And apparently, what they're doing with all the production in Canada is they're sending a lot of those vehicles to Central, maybe South America as well to get around the tariffs. It's just bizarre. It's so crazy. But that's what they have to do to survive. Honda sources a third of their vehicles from Mexico and Canada. Like I said, they build Civic Sedan and CRV in Canada. They also build the HRV and now the ADX in Mexico. So Honda's hit from vehicles coming in from Canada and Mexico is they're expecting by this fiscal year, by the end of this fiscal year, March 31st, 2026, they will have to take a $1.31 billion hit just from imports from Canada and Mexico. But they're also seeing another $1.1 billion tariff cost because of imported parts, raw materials, steel, aluminum, and copper. But that's more on the automobile end. Don't forget Honda produces and makes more money, more profit on their motorcycles. So they're expecting almost $700 million hit on motorcycles and power products such as, their side-by-sides like a Talon. They have outboard motors for marine and stuff like that. And just to let you know how big North America is for Honda, 54% of Honda's sales are in North America. Their sales continue to shrink in China, and so North America becomes more and more important. And the performance of their motorcycles, which is strong in South America and Asia, helped to compensate for the auto business's slump. Its operating profit margin rose by 1 percentage point year over year to almost 20%, resulting in operating profit 189 billion yen, up 6.4% from the same period last year. So their motorcycles are doing well. And lastly, Honda is reportedly exploring the possibility of business collaboration with Nissan in the United States, but nothing has been decided. Nissan needs all the help they can get. Nissan has two hugely underutilized plants, one in Smyrna, Tennessee, where they build the Pathfinder, the Rogue, the Murano, for example. The Leaf used to be built there. The QX60 is built there, if I remember right. And then in Canton, Mississippi, they build the Frontier and the Altima. That's a massively underused plant. They need to be building the Xterra there. They need to be building probably the Sentra there. They can kill the Altima and build the Sentra there so they don't all have to come in from Mexico, or build the Kicks there as well so they don't all have to come in from Mexico. But nothing has been decided between Honda and Nissan, and they could absolutely benefit from helping each other out. The plants could be better utilized for Nissan with Honda's, I guess you could say contract manufacturing. Just rebadge some vehicles. Like, what could Honda use from Nissan? Well, it's a pickup truck. Rebadge the Frontier, and now we're cooking. You can kill off the Ridgeline and get a real body on frame truck out of Honda / Nissan, because the Frontier is my favorite midsize pickup truck. I'm all for different variants of it. And if there's a Honda badge on there with Honda styling, I might be sold. All right. So that would be good. The Xterra needs to come back, and maybe the next gen Passport. I know it's a little early, but maybe the next gen Passport can go body on frame and share with the Xterra as well. There's just endless possibilities and collaborations a Honda and Nissan could do, but nothing's been decided. And geez, with how slow these Japanese companies move, I just don't want to get my expectations too high, or I don't want to get excited too much. But I'm going to end it there. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for more auto industry news. I should have a Toyota update here shortly on their Q2 results. And it's not going to be pretty either. Toyota is up 20%. So they're probably looking a lot better than Nissan and Honda at this point financially. So I'll see you guys in the comments. Thank you for watching. Have a great day and peace.